Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to make DIY shirts, and you can actually do this with any fabric. So DIY basically screen printing or types of things like that for any sort of fabric. So here's my hoodie that's based off of my book design. So the steps for this basically, once you get an image that you want on your computer, or you can print it out either way. Then I took a transparency and traced the image onto the transparency, then taken an X-Acto knife and tiny scissors, and I cut out all the major parts of the stencil. And then I used this spray called like sticky note tack spray, or you can just use painter's tape, like a lot of it on every like crevice. And I talk about this more in my old DIY printed hoodies shirt, so you can watch that for a little bit more in depth. But it's basically the same process. Then I just attach it to the piece of fabric. In this case, this is a hoodie, and then I go over it once or twice with like a sponge brush or like a thicker brush, kind of in like a dabbing motion. I'm trying not to get the paint under the stencil because that happens a lot, and then it makes it like bleed and makes your image, you know, fuzzy and messy. But for this one, it was a little bit more complicated because it's really intricate, and also I didn't want to cut out the whole stencil, and even if I did, it probably wouldn't have captured all the lines. So this relied a lot on freehand, so I kind of just put in the major outline points of the different, like the eye holes and then the outside perimeter. And then once I did that, then I kind of freehanded it, and then I also used a light box with the stencil underneath in order to do it. So this one was a kind of gold to black ombre, and whenever you're painting with fabric, you usually have to do like 2 to 3 coats, sometimes even more than that, because the fabric does suck up a lot of it, and also because of the texture, it's hard to get a nice even coat. So this does take a really long time. Like, all of these clips are on 20 or 30 times, because each piece of clothing took maybe 2 or 3 hours to do. So just keep that in mind. And then I went in with some red and some silver to create more of that ombre effect and the more crackly effect, because if you've ever seen my book cover, that's what it looks like. So yeah. Alright, and here's the finished product for that. And then the next piece I worked on was this Mickey Mouse sweatshirt that I saw at Primark, and they didn't have any more, so I decided to just make my own. And so this one I also was kind of the same process of only kind of cutting out the stencil at the major points and then putting those down and then kind of freehand drawing it. And so I went first in really lightly with the black to make it look even kind of grayish and like a pencil sketch, but that is paint, and then going back in over and over again to try to make it darker, and then some parts I purposefully left lighter so that it has that kind of sketchy feel. And a question I got a lot on the last video is that if are these safe to wash, and yes, they are. I've had some of the hoodies from the other video for over, I think, like 6 years now. I'm not sure exactly when it was made, but they're still as bright and vibrant as ever. The thing I do recommend is get the Tulip soft paints, and it's really important to get the soft fabric paint, not the dimensional one, because the dimensional one's going to dry hard and kind of like puffy, whereas the soft one dries so that you can't even really feel the paint on it. And that's especially important when you're doing bigger like areas of paint. So right here I'm doing the Mickey Mouse in like block letters, and so that would be like completely stiff if you use dimensional paint or not soft paint. So that's how this one turned out. Now for this next one, I'm just showing you how I'm making the actual piece of clothing. I did that viral legging into a sports bra or tank top hack, and here's how it turned out. Okay, for this one I decided to try to do some sort of like texture in a way, so I put a bunch of glitter, like a lot of glitter, into some white fabric paint in order to make it kind of shiny. The only problem with this is, be warned, that it does kind of stiffen up the paint a little bit, and I was also trying to put some holographic paint, and so this t-shirt was a little bit more stiff where the paint was, but the glitter kind of showed up, so I wouldn't recommend doing it. I would have just used the white paint. And here I was using the leftover paint, so it kind of had the same problem. And as you can tell, it takes quite a few layers, and I did mess up at the bottom, but you know, just be careful because it's not easy to fix mistakes if you make them. This one's pretty simple. I just wanted to do a princess sweater, so I just kind of freehanded it in chalk, and then I put down the paint. For this one, this was also pretty self-explanatory. The only thing is this material was a little harder to work with because it was all stretchy, so just make sure you put a piece of cardboard or a cutting board like I was using underneath and like clip it to make it taut. This one was also the same way, that I put in the main points and then I kind of freehanded the rest of them. But yeah, you have to really stretch it taut because otherwise your fabric can get bunched up and messed up. And so here's an example of some other shirts that I made using this process. Hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below. Thanks for watching!